Everything that we need is already in our phone right now. The most underutilized and undervalued application we have is our contacts, because that is where your opportunity goes to die.
Because I think some people have like a broken mindset of like, oh, I help everyone, I do everything, and it never comes back to me.
And within that first year, I did my first 7-figure year just by connecting the dots. It's if you lost your job tomorrow, who would you go to? Who is your support system?
But this is just going to be such a lucrative and an important business, not just lucrative, like a meaningful business for so many people.
It's the favor flywheel on how you continue to grow your business. Leverage the resources that you already have. My parents were poor. If you notice, I said my parents. I was never poor. Not my cross to bear. Love them.
Jarrod, officially welcome to the Wealth Juice podcast. Corey and I are stoked to have you on the show today, man. We kind of got ahead of ourselves in the pre-recording. We're just so passionate about this topic, and we're just delighted to have you here. So thanks for joining us.
I am ready for the juice, gentlemen. Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. So let's start here. Your background, you've built 2 very successful 8-figure businesses, but the main thing that you're driving today is the concept of relationship capital. So can you talk to us about what this is and why people should take it seriously?
Everything that we need is already in our phone right now. The most underutilized and undervalued application we have is our contacts, because that is where your opportunity goes to die. You put somebody in your contacts and they're just there. There's no structure around it. And what we have to realize is that we as entrepreneurs who have been successful, we don't need to meet anyone else. We could stop today. And if we just connect the dots looking backwards, we could 10x our businesses tomorrow. And the dots looking backwards are the people who are already in our network. The idea of relationship capital isn't just having these dead leads, these dead contacts in your phone. It's your ability to activate those people on a consistent basis within an operating system that's going to drive your business to the next level. And this is what the elite players do. This is what Goldman Sachs does with their managing directors. JP Morgan does with their principals. This is how the biggest, most successful people in the world have built the incredible empires they have today. It's through connecting the dots within their networks and relationship capital.
Wow.
Jarrod, when did you discover this, Jarrod? I'm very curious because it sounds like, you're polished, you're put together, you look like you're in good shape. It sounds like you've discovered this thing, but I can't imagine at 18 years old or, at that age that you knew all about this. So I'm very curious when you discovered.
I didn't know all about this, but again, if I connect the dots looking backwards, this all goes back to 3rd grade when Ashley Martinez was in love with me. And the very quick and short story is her mother was in real estate. She knew I had an affinity for real estate. She got me an internship with a very big real estate broker where I grew up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Her name was Linda Emerson. And then it was to the moon from there. And I've been in real estate now for over 25 years, starting at 16. And what I realized, and it wasn't actually until, because I went to NYU, I went for real estate finance and development. I worked myself through college. So it actually took me 5 years, 3 semesters a year, because I had to go full time and still work full time. That there were certain things that people around me were doing and connecting the dots that I was like, oh, that's how you're getting things over the finish line. It was one of the smallest things that happened. Was back when I was in NYU, I was working full time, but I still would go to the networking things that they offered. And I watched my friends get internships, get help on their dissertations, make connections with big power players in the businesses that they wanted to go in, all through these little cocktails or dinners that they put together for us while we were in school. And that was one of the things that I kind of filed away. It didn't mean anything to me. But when in 2008, shit hit the fan, lost my $175,000 job, and I thought I was a baller at that point in time. I had to pick up the pieces. Nobody was hiring in my industry, in real estate, and what I did in particular. I decided to become an independent agent, and I went from like almost out on the streets, because I had no idea what I was doing at that point in time, making that kind of money at that age, because I was in my early 20s at that point in time, where I said, I've got some contacts. I see what they did when I was in school. Can I capitalize on those contacts and maybe drive some business as an independent agent? And within that first year, I did my first 7-figure year just by connecting the dots, doing a couple dinners, doing a couple meetups with people that I knew. And then it was, it saved my ass again in 2015 when I was in $1.8 million in debt, but we can talk about that later.
This is amazing. By the way, I don't know if it's fate that brought us here or whatever. I know it's a connection that we both have. We love the guy, but I will say it's just very timely. So Corey and I have been talking about this recently where we've interviewed, we told you before recording, it's episode 303, yours should be. And so that's 300 successful entrepreneurs or investors, at least 300 of them that we've interviewed. And our biggest struggle is, once again, you have an amazing conversation with someone and you provide value within the hour that you talk. But then after that, how do you stay in contact with that person, continue to provide value to make them want to be around you? And knowing that everyone's on a different place in the globe, right? We're in Philly, and then there's people in California. There's people, not even in the States that we're come into contact with. So I want to talk to you about the structure and kind of dive into that, because Corey and I were both in sales in our 9-to-5s, and we're very familiar with touch points every 30 days and whether it's an email, a call. And so that's where my brain goes, only because that's what I know. So maybe you could talk to the structure and how we could potentially build this system out for ourselves.
So you've got 300 some odd guests. What I would suggest is you pick the ones that, because you're going to know, all right, these are my top 50, 100, 200, maybe it's 303 that I want to stay in contact with. Break them down into segments. And these segments could be a diverse group of people, or it could be like all people who are doing commercial real estate, all people who are doing residential, all people who are doing short-term rentals. And then on a monthly basis, you offer them a think tank meeting. You get together for an hour, 2 hours, have a headliner come in, speak about maybe what's happening in the marketplace, maybe do a deal exchange. You figure out how you continue to add value to them, because the whole idea around this building relationship capital, becoming a relationship capitalist, is buying favor. Buying favor is an exchange of kindness. You're giving to someone else, and they falsely, and I want to emphasize falsely, feel like they should reciprocate. It's the law of reciprocation. We've been doing this for thousands of years as human beings. But if you take it in terms of bite sizes, like I'm not going to contact each person individually, but these people who have been part of your network, they've been on your podcast, they've had a great experience, start helping them connect dots within your own private little community.
Love it. Jarrod, this is important stuff because, Ryan and I, we've tried to implement this into our lives a number of times. And I'm very curious. I've heard Gary Vee say this. So for example, he'll be like, do something with zero expectation in return. So what you kind of said there is that there's a law of reciprocity, if you will. Like people will automatically end up doing this. And I try to do this anytime anybody reaches out to me about anything. I try to say, okay, I'm going to get back to them with some form of an answer, with some email connection, with somebody that I can point them to, even if it's not me, to help them better themselves. And I can't help but think in the back of my head selfishly that like, oh, maybe I'm doing this for myself at some point. How do you remove that to have like, hey, I have no expectation for something in return. I'm just going to try to do good and be good. And then knowing that that'll come back to you. Because I think some people have like a broken mindset of like, oh, I help everyone, I do everything, and it never comes back to me. Is that all between your ears is my question.
Why do you do this podcast?
Well, we do this podcast for a number of reasons. Originally, it started as a way to share our journey for people that were a couple steps behind us, not 100 steps, but a few steps behind us, and that they would follow in our footsteps, because listening to people that had 1,000 units that built it in 1993, that's not a good recipe. We want to come along the journey with you. And in tandem, because of COVID, we did it because we wanted to organically network with people that were a couple steps ahead of us and amplify their voices. So that is the reason, which has now become a networking machine for us. Okay. And we try to stay in contact with everyone. But hopefully that answered your question about what it's
and
for.
Through your network, you're doing business, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Yes. So it's for your selfish reasons.
Yeah, you can say that.
And I'm not calling you selfish, but let's call a spade, and let's not, don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining. Everything we do, if you donate all of your money to charity, the fact that, and anonymously, The fact that you can sit in your lazy boy in your living room and go, God, that felt so good to write them that $1 million check. You're doing it for selfish reasons. We all do things to serve ourselves. And the truth is, and Oprah said this years ago, it was finally when I was like, all right, I actually love Oprah, because I didn't love her forever, but now I'm like, I love her because I get her. She said, people tell me all the time, I'm a selfish person. I'm so full of myself. And she said she got to a point in her career where she says, yeah, I am full of myself. I am so full of myself, my cup runneth over. So that allows me to give 100% of myself to everyone else. And we have to do things that serve our psyche, mentally, emotionally, financially, whatever, so we can continue to give to others. So we're all connected in this world. We all ultimately want the same things. Our order of priorities might be different, but the fact that we're all going towards the same goal means we have to work together to get it. So the advice of telling people they should always be helping other people is 100% self-serving, because once you are 100% full, you can give to others 100%.
Jarrod, let's get tangible here. Who was one of the first people that actually tangibly, as I said, helped you, and you put this relationship capital to work? And maybe it doesn't have to be the first person. Just think of an example of where it did happen, so that people that are listening can relate. Okay, I know this person. Maybe they're not just going to invest into one of my deals, but I can approach it this way. I want to know, like, actually how somebody had helped you, because you mentioned you were doing I think you said this, 7 figures a year in your 20s. So that's kind of unheard of. We're not doing 7 figures a year, and we're in our 30s, so we're a little bit behind, but that's why I want to have this conversation. Talk to me about somebody that has impacted you and how they actually did it and put this relationship capital into play.
So I had a guy, Sean Mueller, who was a mortgage broker, and I can't remember what firm he was with, and I frankly can't remember where he is right now, but he was a mortgage broker in New York City. When everything in 2008 just crashed, lost my job, was trying to figure out what to do, a friend of mine says, you know real estate, you know sales, you're incredible at it. Go be an independent real estate agent. You have great connections. I was like, that's fine. But I went from living on every single dollar that I was making at $175,000, paying 50% of that in taxes, didn't know anything about taxes, et cetera, et cetera. I was like, well, I don't have any money to go out and do this. And I said, what I want to do is network and have dinners and all this kind of stuff. And what I did is I went to Sean and I said, Sean, I want to do a couple dinners. I want to put some potential investors around the table, some potential buyers and sellers that I know are within my network. I called a couple friends up and I said, who would want to come to a dinner and learn about the lending market in 2008 after this crash and how they should be looking at real estate assets? I literally had like 30 people who wanted to come to the dinner because everybody was scared shitless. So we ended up actually breaking it up into 3 dinners. We did about 12 people around the table for each one of the dinners, and Sean paid for it. Now, this didn't become a structure until later on in my life, but the reason that this was so pivotal was because I couldn't afford to pay for it at the time. It was a value add to him because he needed to drive business to continue growing his mortgage business in the biggest crisis we've seen in mortgages in years. And we were having a great conversation that wasn't even led by me. I was just hosting the room and curating the people around the table. He wasn't selling anything. He was just talking about how to look at the market. And everybody walked away and they're like, my God, that was so informative. I was like really nervous and I didn't know what was happening on the inside. And thank you so much. That's how I closed my first deals. So it was Sean, which I then ultimately had more Seans in my life and have a ton of them in my life today, where they're like, hey, we'll pay for an event to put the right people around the table that could become clients for me and clients for you. And that's really what took me off in 2008.
It's beautiful, man. That's great. So you are an ultimate curator of relationships, and that's how you've you're a dot connector. And honestly, Ryan and I feel like we're in that way similarly. Now we have a community, a mentorship program where we teach people how to buy their first or next rental property because we know how much that has changed our lives. And in that, we're creating unbelievable relationships with people who in some form or fashion have looked up to us. And even if we're not an authoritative figure in the space, they're just like, hey, I want to be around these guys. We bring in people that we want to be around, and it's this cool curated community. So I kind of feel like a dot connector in a way too. Maybe you mentioned this, like, is this something that you put in a CRM? Is this something that you like organize in a way that you're like, okay, I need to have this touch point with somebody. I need to X amount of days. So, just so it doesn't feel forced in a way. You have to lead with that value consistently. So how do you do it like in a just how does it function, I guess?
So it was probably back in 2015. So as I was saying, I had made some real estate deals that went completely sideways. I purchased a company I had no business, an online sales platform for luxury goods, which I had no business buying. Lost a ton of money and was $1.8 million in debt. So I already knew how to accelerate my business. And I actually, at that point in time, I went into consulting, and a lot of them were real estate clients, but then I had some other businesses I was consulting for. And within 3 years came out of that, paid everybody back that I owed money to. Some were investors, some were, just debtors, and was again, making 7 figures a year doing this consulting business. My ability to connect the dots and get the right people around the table, that's what again took me to the next level. But I said, I was kind of losing because I was doing so much of the networking. I was losing contact with people. I wasn't doing great follow-up. So I ended up paying somebody like 10 grand and they put together a system for me. Ultimately, what that system became was spreadsheets that I used to track my relationships that, funnily enough, I still use today. However, and you'll be the first to know when it comes out, by the beginning of 2026, we are turning our concept of buying favor into a relationship operating system. So if you're a business, you're like your EOS operating system. Maybe you're doing profit first for your finances. Then you've got your marketing and sales operating systems. Those are the core 4, but everyone is missing a relationship management software. And I don't mean LinkedIn. I don't mean a CRM. I mean for your higher level relationship. So I work with several entrepreneurs, guiding them on how to build their businesses off of just the kind of the beta stuff that I use right now, but it's very effective. The key is with managing relationships, whether or not it's a software or it's a spreadsheet. You have to commit to it and engage in it. So you take, like, for instance, Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt does his Brilliant Minds dinners still to this day. The amount of business that gets done around that table, next level. Jeff Bezos has his mindfulness retreats. Those are all executives and power players and people who are influential doing offsites, intellectual mind share, figuring out business strategy. Necker Island and Richard Branson, if you get an invite and pay the $40,000 to go, you're walking away doing business. It is something you have to commit to, but it is the difference between somebody who wants to struggle at 7 figures and somebody who wants to grow their business to 8 figures, 9 figures, and beyond.
How do you determine, as an entrepreneur, Ryan and I are real estate investors. Our real estate pays us. Our mentorship program is something that we're focused on. We're growing that to 7 figures and beyond. Most of the people that are listening to our podcast are probably working their 9-to-5 job. They're buying real estate on the side. Maybe they're going to try to become a full-time entrepreneur. Maybe they have a construction company or a remodeling company, and they're like working their way towards either escaping the 9-to-5 or just trying to build some wealth on the side.
Right.
How do you convey a message to somebody who is so busy with kids and this and that and after school activities and whatnot, and they're trying to raise their life, to commit to relationship capital, like you're saying, when it seems like something that's on the outside looking in for most people who are just trying to get by? Is this really something that you're like, hey, you got to be in the top echelon for this to even work for you? Or you think people are just missing the boat because they're not emphasizing it enough in their lives, even at a smaller scale?
People are missing the boat because they don't even know how to make the ask. And making the ask, so I love the dude who does, can't remember his name, but it's the School of Hard Knocks. He'll go up to people on the street and say, what did you do to make XYZ? I think what he does is great and it's inspirational, but it is vacuous. It is not helpful at all. Because if I'm going to sit down with you guys, I'm going to say, to your point, who was the first person who helped you move the needle? That was Sean Mueller. I'm going to say to you guys, who's your big person that helped you move the needle? I mean, I listened to the episode you guys did with Tarek El Moussa.
Yeah.
And he said that he did that back in 2009, the first short sale, made $7 grand. The guy he flipped it to made 130 grand. He goes, I'm not short selling anymore. He went to one of his buddies who was very wealthy, said, let's do this together. He said, you do all the work. I'll put up the money. It's still his business partner today. It's that one person. We're all one relationship away. So the question isn't how did you do it? Or if you lost your job tomorrow, what would you do? It's if you lost your job tomorrow, who would you go to? Who is your support system? Who is going to give you the access that you need to start again? Because it is all people, whether you're selling a product or a service, you're doing coaching, you're investing in real estate. It's the connectivity of people. We don't have a choice. So this isn't an option as in like, this is secondary. It's going to be hard for me to do this. Meh. No, you have to pick up and commit to this if you want to build that next level of success, because you're already doing it. You just have to learn to do it at a higher level. And the way you start, and especially somebody who's earlier on in the business, have your group of mentors and your group of advisors, people who are successful. Like when you guys started your podcast, you picked up the phone and said, hey, you're 3 steps ahead of me. I'm going to interview you for my podcast. They probably only turned you down if they were super busy. Am I correct in assuming most people are like, yeah, man, I'd love to do it?
It's a very reciprocal transfer of services. Like we're giving you a place to amplify your voice, and then you get to share your story and we get to learn. So yeah, I would say there's only been 1-2 people that have ever said no to coming on our podcast, honestly. Yeah.
So what you're looking at there is someone who has gone through the trials and tribulations of being an entrepreneur. And I know I make it sound really good. It has been really freaking rough at points in my life. And again, we can talk about that later. But we all want to help once we get to a certain point, because there's only so much money you can pay me. And then you get to a point, and especially people who are really successful, where you can't pay them enough. But if it makes them feel good, one of the things that I've found that people who are super successful, they say the amount of people who do not reach out to them blows their mind. One of my buddies who I'm working on actually a project, who I met through Jesse, our mutual friend from Immersion, and built a $250 million real estate portfolio, raised it through 100 plus individual investors, 70 million in equity. And so I said to Mari, it's time to go institutional. He's like, I don't understand the institutional world. So he actually followed up with me and followed through, because this kid is really freaking smart. He's in his early 30s. That's why I say kids. I'm in my early 40s now. And he flew out to New York. I introduced him to 5 major private equity funds. And we met with Goldman Sachs too, to get him acquainted with what the conversation is, the people he should be meeting with, and the conversations that he should be having. It made me feel good. I was willing to do it. It made me look good in front of my network to offer them a really great opportunity that they would have had no other access to. And now we're talking about a potential investment. But if I reel that back and I start, the reason I'm giving the story for him of where he is now, when he started at 15 years old, and this is my theory on FedEx, he went out to where he lived, the state in which he lived in, all of the major families. They were all billionaires. He reached out to 6 of them. Only 2 responded. One had kind of this off the cuff conversation with him, but just like brushed him off. The other gentleman welcomed him to his office. They had a coffee together. They started having lunch together. Now the guy's his business partner, and the guy is a billionaire 5 times over, self-made, in his 80s now. Like, the fact that he actually reached out to him at 15 years old, people who are successful, when someone like that has the balls to pick up the phone and call you and have a conversation with you, you're like, who's this freaking kid? Okay, I'll talk to you, because that shows the tenacity and the drive, but connecting with people on that level, and you're serving them. You are giving to that person because you're making them feel good because they're paying it forward to you.
This is great stuff. I actually, I was on Instagram the other day and I saw something that reminded me of something that happened recently. And I love the whole, like, I'll give somebody a chance if they're willing to do something that I know it takes a real entrepreneur to do. And it was not the other day, it was this winter. So, but I always remember this. These 2 kids came up to my front, my house, and they're like, well, just knocking door to door. Hey, we'll shovel your driveway. And they're like, we'll do it for free. And I was like, these kids are like on to something here. And like, I was like, how could I say no to that? These kids wanting to do it for free. And what they're hoping is that they're 13. What they're hoping is that they build a reciprocal relationship so that, they leave their card or whatever they have, the pamphlet or whatever. It could have, I don't even remember. It was like maybe just their number and like, hey, maybe I'll call them back and I'll pay for the next time, because who's going around knocking door to door, and who's going to say no to that? But these kids are on to something, and that's like a little bit of a lower level of what you were just saying. So I think everyone has people in their lives that they can call. They might just not realize who they are. And that kind of reminds me that there's people that really do want to help. And I'm just not in contact with them enough because everyone gets bogged down in the day to day. So I think it's really important stuff.
So if you look at your business model right now, what is one of the biggest challenges you are facing, which is hindering you or you feel is hindering you from growth?
This is a good question. Okay. So in our real estate company, I'll focus on our mentorship program maybe, but our real estate is probably, it's both the same thing, but I'll say lead flow would be like we have seen a ton of success with people coming into the fulfillment is amazing. People love it. They're getting deals done, but I would say lead flow would probably be the biggest. If I had to throw out a blockage, it would be that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So one of the things that in terms of getting creative, let's talk about, I'm going to pull in your existing market and we can talk about the lead flow. You're 303 people who have been on your podcast. Within your mentorship community, your coaching community, you should start bringing them in on a monthly basis, offer them speaking spots.
Yeah, we've started to do that actually, which has been great. People love it. So I think that is something that we're going to emphasize more. We do 4 calls a month, so once a week, and 2 of the 4 what we're doing is we're bringing in people that have been on our podcast, and then giving them the opportunity they have something that is mutually beneficial for the people that are in our community, a lending product, a strategy that they want to take hold of. So that is something that we've implemented and are looking to do it even more. As we add more people to our community, we're going to add more calls and so on and so forth. So yeah.
One of the things that I suggest always is doing physical events. So I run a series for the last decade in New York City called Headliner Series. And it's all executives, C-suites, entrepreneurs, family offices, where once a month we do a very high level dinner on a topic. One that we did recently was integrating AI into your family office. The other one was the changing tides within the VC world. One was under 40 executives getting more involved civically in the city and the state of New York. We are putting real high quality people around the table. And frankly, for my own selfish reasons, business comes out of it. I get investors all the time. I get, for my payments company, big companies that are like, hey, we want to work with you just because we like you. But if you want to create more activations, I'd look at 2 things. I'd look at 1, the current members that you have within your community, having them host events with you. It would be great if they're live, but I know you're probably spread across the US where you do, it could be 5 people or 50 people that they bring in and you do a mentorship or a coaching session for all of the people that are in their network. If you've got 20 people that you're coaching and they each bring 10 people to your individual sessions that you do, that's now 200 more people that you're in front of. You should be able to convert 25% of those into coaching clients. And it just continues to grow and grow and grow. It's the favor flywheel on how you continue to grow your business. Leverage the resources that you already have, because that cold outreach, that is the difficult way to do it. It could work, but if you already have these people who are in your network, who are receiving your services and they really love it, those are the people who should be helping you drive that next layer of traffic.
That's really, really well said. And it's something that Ryan and I have decided that a next iteration of our community is going to be the ascension into the in-person. But I do think that there's a way to meld the two and have in-person events where the people within our community are bringing other people that they might think are interested. And then that helps drive more people our way, ultimately to serve and to grow our business. So I think it's really, really well said. I'm curious, Jarrod, what you're focused on today. What are you focused on right now? You've built we didn't touch on too much the real estate and the payment processing companies, but what is your biggest focus right now? Is it working B2C with individual entrepreneurs? Are you working with companies to help them put in processes, or what's the model that you're going after and how are you helping?
I am in a very unique position. I'm not going to say that's unique. That's kind of BS. I listened to one of the other podcasts you did with the guy who did the silly bands, Robert Croak.
Yeah, Robert Croak, he's amazing.
Which that was like his advice that he gave at the end, that if he was in his early 20s, he said, go work at the local country club. And I'll tell you why that's incredibly important. It's because it's access, the conversations that you overhear, the people that you're around, they polish you to be able to enter into that world. I came from a family that was poor. My parents were poor. If you notice, I said my parents. I was never poor. Not my cross to bear. Love them, but it was never my problem or my fault. That's another conversation we can have on another podcast. But when you're around that type of energy, that will help you expand and grow massively when you start to learn those things early on. So the fact of the matter is that you have to get aligned with the right people. And I aligned with the right people in my businesses to put me in the position where now I get to work on my business, not in my business. I have the alignment with the right operators. That alignment is great financial compensation. That is an equity structure in my businesses, that now I get to play and have fun. Playing and having fun is now working with other entrepreneurs, guiding them on how to grow their businesses. Now, for me, it's super easy because I've got 25 years of doing this, where I can go, oh, connect these 3 dots. We're going to put together an advisory board for you. And that's what's going to take you to the next level. Oh, you need help with this in terms of growth for your SaaS company. Well, let's put together a board for you. We give them a profit interest share as opposed to equity. So when you make profits, they get a share out of that, and you get to tap into them and their networks to make those connections to get 5 other accounts where you now can 10x your business in a 3-year period. And these are things that people just don't connect the dots. So for me, working with the entrepreneurs, a lot of the entrepreneurs I work with are 7-figure entrepreneurs who are like, I want to go to 8, I want to go to 9. How do I do it like high level players have been doing it? And that's what I'm doing today. And it's a blast. It's all under my Buying Favor brand that I'm growing and having a blast doing it.
Very cool. Yeah. Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, I have a quick one too. I just want to make it a little bit actionable for people that are listening too. So our audience, aspiring real estate investors, small business owners, entrepreneurs, et cetera, and they're going through the game here too. And I think what we hear all the time is add value, or just to get in these rooms with the right people, you just have to continually add value to them. Can you talk about, I know we kind of touched on some of these things, but just almost action steps for people to take today that are listening to say, hey, listen, like, I don't want to become a burden to someone. I want to get into the right rooms. I want to provide them value so I can spend more time with them, learn from them, etc. Maybe just a little bit of a structure, small roadmap that they can take to go do that today. You know, maybe it is those in-person events. Maybe it is some of the other things we discussed, but I'm just curious from the person driving, I want to give them something to write down.
It's time and well, if you're driving, don't write this down. Just push rewind or pause and then come back to this. All jokes aside, it's time and repetition. So this is not something that when you're buying favor, when you're building a relationship, becoming a relationship capitalist, this is something that happens over the long term. I don't mean 5 or 10 years. The long term could be 90 days. And when you're adding value to someone, it could be you meet somebody in an event and you really connect and you like the person. And you now have them on your favor 5 list, which we can talk about. You say, send them an article that's really interesting. Make a connection within your network to someone else that adds value to them, other than just, hey, I'm checking in, I'm thinking about you. It's, you know what, I just met with my friend Dan. You guys are both in real estate. You guys are both in Phoenix. I think you should actually sit down and talk, because I know you've been struggling with growing your portfolios. Maybe there's some synergies and something that you can do together. When you start to connect the human beings, that's when things start to change. That's when you become the connector. That's when you become this sphere of influence that people want to be around. I was talking with one of my clients that I advise for, and one of the comments that he made to me was, you know, we've been doing a lot of these fix and flips. We want to get into larger buildings. We want more deal flow, more foreclosures to come across our desk. And I said to him, and this is adding value to someone, but it's adding value in a very indirect way. I said, have you ever had your lender, who's your banker, and they have access to foreclosures, come out to your properties that he's lent on? And he's like, no. I says, all right. So take him out for lunch one day, and then the 5 properties that he has loans on, show him your properties, give him a tour, This is what we're doing. This is how we add value here. This is what we don't do. This is how we're maximizing the rents in the marketplace. They never get invited out to see the properties. And for them, they now can go back to their investment committee. They can go back when they're underwriting a loan and go, oh, this dude does a great job. So worst case scenario, if we ever had to take the property back, we know that he built a quality product and we can go sell it off to someone else. But it's more than that. It's you're now getting them involved. You're adding value to them, that when that foreclosure comes through, they're like, yeah, I'm going to send it over to John. I know he's going to do right by this. He'll maximize the value of this property and we can lend to him because we trust him. Those are some of the small ways that you can add value.
Super helpful. I think it's interesting getting a peek behind the curtain, because Jesse, just going to put him on blast here, or on a pedestal. He does this so well. And I always thought, I was like, this is just innate in this man. Like, he always does this. He's a connector. He connected us for the show, but he does this often, and he's great at checking in. And I'm like, we can blame it on his digital nomad lifestyle, but he's always thinking about other people. And now I know he has a system behind it. So it's so interesting. Like, I know that I originally just thought, like, this, he's just built different. Like, he's just doing this and out of his own free thinking, right? But it's really cool that you can put a business behind it and you have a structure and touch points for this thing. And it's very unique. And I think no one's talking about this. And it is, I think you have you already know this, but this is just going to be such a lucrative and an important business, not just lucrative, like a meaningful business for so many people, because that's what they're lacking. Everybody gets so busy and they're trying to focus on the next shiny object or the next thing or the next person they need to meet. Maybe they already know these people. They've already had incredible conversations. Like, how do they cultivate and squeeze the most out of the juice, right? Or squeeze the most juice out of the fruit and the relationship. So it's so interesting to me that you've put almost like an SOP behind relationship capital, this thought or idea, right?
Yeah.
So kudos to you. I think it's one of the most important conversations we've had in a long time.
So, Robert Croak actually said something really interesting too in the interview that you did with him. He talked about the masterminds that he goes to, and there's that 2-week follow-up period. So I went to Jesse's mastermind earlier in this year, and I walked away with probably 6 key relationships. But I made sure I followed up with all those people because we connected at that event. It's the same way that you guys are building your business. You're doing your outreach. You have your CRM where you're sending out your podcast to the people in your network. The difference with your typical marketing and sales strategy and relationship management is when you are focused on driving sales, driving traffic, those are the things that allow you to work in the business because you have cash flow coming in. Your business is working like a machine. The things that help you work on your business is when you elevate to leveraging other people. So you're not just leveraging a platform to create numbers and traffic to come to your site or to do sales. You're leveraging people which give you that intellectual mind share where you can start to make bigger moves and bigger decisions. So you make more money. Your company, your platform grows. Again, this isn't an option. If you want to build something big, this is how you have to do it.
I think this is great. As we wind down the show, Jarrod, we typically like to ask a little bit more of a philosophical question because it's clear that you're extremely driven and you've kind of, you mentioned Bucks County. I grew up in Chester County, so it's funny that we're connecting today, and we're in Philadelphia. So there's some synergy here, but I'm curious about the why behind some of the drive that you have. You mentioned, I think this was intentional that you mentioned that your parents were poor, and you didn't follow. You could have. Most of the generation below kind of stays in a similar, maybe a little bit above class that their parents are in because they learn habits. Right. What about the way that you were brought up? What gets you out of bed every morning, and what's the why behind what you do? Is there some sort of, I have a feeling there's a good story to tell here, so I'm curious, and that's why I'm asking.
So, very strained relationship with my family and my parents. My parents were both drug addicts, but what was weird, I always felt so out of place in my family. Like the things that went on, and they were very functioning drug addicts till they weren't, that I was like, this doesn't seem like reality to me. So I never attached to like that being my problem or something that I wanted to have anything to do with. And that made me gravitate towards other people. I had the Martinez family, Mom and Pop Mar, who were like parents to me. I had the McLaughlins and Lynn McLaughlin, who was a mom to me. Like, I had other people where I realized that outside of what is my base, there was a network of other people who loved and supported me, whether that was Linda Emerson and Mike Shea, or it was Florence Warner. These are people who became my family. I got to create my family, and they helped me realize, and this is like really rudimentary, like going deep. They helped me realize that that situation at home was not my cross to bear. It wasn't my problem. I was angry with my parents for a very long time, for 20 years. However, the moment that I forgave them, a lot of things started to shift for me, and I have massive love for them. Like, we're not hanging out every day, but I have massive love for them because, number one, they did the best that they could do. Number two, I don't think my path was supposed to be any different, because what it drove me to do was create really genuine, deep, authentic relationships with people who have all said, he's a rock star, he's a good kid, I'm going to support him, and it allowed me to accelerate above and beyond in all of the things that I've done in my career, emotionally, psychologically, financially, because I had this support system. For me, this is deeper, and wow, I actually don't think I've gone this deep. And now that I think about this when explaining it, is I want to help other people and entrepreneurs, because most entrepreneurs have some type of story, to find those relationships, those deep relationships that can help them realize the goals that they have, to have the impact on their family, to have the impact on their community, to create the legacy that they want to create. That drives me. I have more fun doing that than my businesses who make me a ton of money, but things are starting to change now in my 40s where I'm like, all right, now what's my legacy going to be? My legacy is making sure that these entrepreneurs become as successful as they possibly can, the easy way, not the hard way. And the easy way is connecting the dots, looking back, using and leveraging their resources, getting aligned with their network so they can accelerate to the levels at which they want to accelerate.
Well, I'll tell you what, Jarrod, I think Ryan and we've talked about this on a couple of recent podcasts. We grew up middle class, maybe upper middle class, depending on how you define it. And we didn't long for anything growing up. We had great families. That doesn't mean there wasn't things that went wrong in our families, right? But I always loved talking to people who came from a situation like yours, where because of the way that you grew up, and you said your parents were drug addicts, that if you do come out on the side that you come out on, there are people, individuals, adults, professionals, entrepreneurs who are going to want you to succeed even more because of the way that you grew up. And I think that's fascinating. And I think that it's a testament to you, and not leaning into whatever your parents were doing and going in a different direction, but then knowing that there was another way. And there's other people listening that can take solace in that. That's like, hey, there is another way. I don't have to do what my parents did, or I don't have to do what my family does. And I am inspired by it. And that honestly is one of the things that drive us to be better every day, because there are people that come from way worse situations than us that have made it even, further, in air quotes, so depending on how you define it, but they've made it further than we have. And that to me is like, if they can do it, then I have zero excuses. I have less than zero excuses. And I really appreciate you getting deep with us and sharing that, because I think that's important. I think that's the reason we do the podcast, is to get a little bit layered below what you're doing in business and the numbers, and that's all cool. But honestly, it gets boring after a while. So I'm glad that you were able to, not your story's boring, but just the typical entrepreneur talk gets boring. And I really want to know the deep stuff. So thank you for being willing to get to level with us there.
I got you guys. You're building a community which is a movement that will have impact, a movement that creates growth. And you're only doing that because you have incredible people around you. So keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome.
Thank you, Jarrod. We appreciate it. I think that's a good way to end the show. You've dropped a lot of bombs on our audience today, and I think a lot of people will think differently about the way relationships work, way they function, and it's not always about creating new ones, but it's about optimizing the ones that you have, and that's kind of what I'm taking away from this. Yeah. So if people want to learn more about you, they want to network, again, throwing that word around, they want to create a relationship with you, or they want to work with you, like, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
You can hit me up. My email is hello@buyingfavor.co, buyingfavor.co, or my Instagram, Jarrod, Jarrod_Guy, GUI. So Jarrod_Guy on Instagram.
We followed you earlier on Instagram. I love the content you're putting out. It's funny. There's a lot of entrepreneurs. Like Ryan and I just did the content with the entrepreneur stuff. So we have this like kind of a following. And I've noticed there's a ton of entrepreneurs that are like now leaning into the content. And it's like a whole new fucking world. Like I'm sure you're aware of that. But I love what you're doing. I think it's great. And keep putting out the content. If you ever have any content questions, not that you would, but I'd love to help you in any way that we can provide value. And I feel like that's one of the ways that we could. So thanks for taking time.
We will we'll mastermind together, and I'll leave you with this. Everybody talks about the book Think and Grow Rich and how much it moved the needle for them and how important it was in their business. But there's one commonality throughout that book that no one talks about. And if you notice, he emphasizes on how all of those successful individuals had masterminds. They had small communities that supported each other to help grow their businesses. We all should have our own masterminds, our own advisories, the people that we go to that are our core 5 people who are driving our businesses forward. And they've been doing it for hundreds and thousands of years. You guys are crushing it. Keep doing it.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time.